I'm Dr. Craig Steingraber here at the Summit Healthplex, and welcome back to Naturally Healthy. Now, this week's show is going to be about the spinal cord itself. We're mapping out the the nervous system for you so that you can understand better how we work and what can affect that nervous system, which contributes a great deal to a lot of common health conditions these days. And it really can be pretty easy to maintain and improve. So last week and the week before, we talked about receptors, how different types of nerves receive information, turn it into electricity, and through the peripheral nervous system, it sends that electrical current or electrical signals or nerve signals up to our spinal cord. We talked about different levels of the spine, okay? Peripheral nerves into or towards the spine, spinal cord, peripheral nerves back out to muscles, organs, etc. We talked about the different levels of the spine, and depending on what area of our body is stimulated and what area of our body is going to be told to do something by our brain, it comes from different levels of our spine. So once again, one of the important reasons why we need to take care of the muscles and ligaments and joints and bones of our spine, because it affects our nervous system function dramatically. Now, today I want to give you some information on how the spinal cord transmits those nerve signals into our brain and transmits those nerve signals out of our brain to our body. So, let's use this little gem here. This is two spinal bones, okay, separated by our spinal disc. We're not going to talk about that this week, but we will. Two spinal bones. This is looking at us from the back. Now I'm going to turn it up to what we call a cross section, okay? And this little yellow thing right here is the main superhighway that carries messages to and from our brain. Now, I'm going to turn it back this way again. Actually, I'm going to turn it around here so we're kind of looking at it from the front. Well, maybe we'll say in the back here. Sorry about that. You see these two extensions here. These are the two nerve roots, or a nerve root on one side, nerve root on another side, that carry messages from our body to our spinal cord and from our spinal cord to our body. Now let's turn a cross section down this way and you can see that anatomy orientation. You folks see the size of this main thing right here, right there. That's about the size of our spinal cord through a great degree of our spine. It's absolutely amazing to me that all the information that gets transmitted into the spinal cord and carried to the brain and carried from the brain and out to our body, for everything, man, everything travels through this little piece of rope, I'll call it. And I'm using rope as an analogy for a reason. If you have a big thick piece of rope, and if you cut it and you look at it from this direction, you can see all the different other fibers of the rope. And they all kind of run in parallel to each other. It's not crisscross, they're all kind of in parallel to each other. To a great degree, that's how the nerve fibers, just like fibers of the rope, that's how those nerve fibers to a great degree run or travel as well. They travel in parallel. Now in this little tiny piece of spinal cord, or that little diameter, there is a tremendous amount of information that travels there. But in this little small area, that little small diameter, there are different sections of that cord that transmit different bits of information. Some of them don't mix at all. Some do mix a little bit. So what I want to do here today is to kind of describe some of those sections for you. Not all of them, but some of those sections. And we're going to use my trusty little whiteboard here. Now, I want to give you this orientation again. Let's say you cut me in half, and then you're looking straight down inside me, straight down this way, looking at this aspect of the spinal cord. So we're going to look at what's called a cross section of the spinal cord. Now, at different levels, whether it's in the neck, whether it's in the middle back, whether it's in the lower back, and even whether it's just inside the base of our skull, these different sections that I'm going to be describing and showing you are larger or smaller and in slightly different positions. But generally, the principle remains the same. Now, here we go. Cross-section of the spinal cord to demonstrate the different sections of that cord that transmit different aspects or different nerve signals to the brain and from the brain. So, here's a cross-section. All right. This is the back of us. So we'll be looking at this aspect, and here's the front of us. All right. Now what I need to do here is divide it down the middle. Okay? And I'm going to make something that's called, well, I'm doing good. I'm amazing myself here with this, quite frankly, folks. All right. There's two general sections of the spinal cord, or a cross section of the spinal cord. You have the white matter, you have the gray matter, and there's different things that are done in there. Now, what I'm going to talk about here next is the white matter. Now, there's a section, and this is really, I'm not going to go to both sides and draw the same thing here for you. So what I show you on this side is essentially in the white matter, which is outside of this kind of, I don't know what kind of figure that is. It's a figure of the gray matter of the spinal cord, but I'm not going to draw this on this side into this area as well. But right through here, okay, and I'm drawing it in red for a very specific reason, is an area called the anterolateral system. It used to be called the spinal thalamic tract. There are tracts, T-R-A-C-T, in our spinal cord, and then think of it like a highway system, okay, or a road going one way. And that spinal thalamic or anterolateral system transmits primarily pain, as well as temperature issues. So pain and temperature isn't transmitted up here. And pain and temperature actually in the spinal cord, pretty much right away, is transmitted. If we feel pain on the right side of our body, it's transferred in the left side of our spinal cord and up to the left part of our brain. When it comes in from a peripheral nerve, when pain comes in, say at our right knee, and it comes into the L4 level primarily, it jumps about 2 segments, or maybe 2, goes up about a segment or so and jumps to the left side of the spinal cord where it comes up and reaches certain aspects of our brain. So this is one tract called the anterolateral system. The green area here is a tract called the corticospinal tract. Now that is a tract that transmits nerve signals from an area of our brain to areas of our body, let's say a muscle. And that's located in this area, and that's all that area essentially does. So it's different from the pain tract, which carries information to our brain. The pain tract is located here. The area of our brain called the corticospinal tract carries information from our brain out to our body, let's say our muscles. Okay? That's another example of a tract. Now, there's another little one right here called the rubrospinal tract, and that's another tract that carries information from our brain to our body, that in a general sense of the word, it's believed that it sends nerve signals to certain muscles that are called flexors, like the biceps muscle, like the hamstring muscles in the back of our legs. Different muscles flex something. There's muscles in the front of our forearm that flex our wrist. There's muscles in the front of our forearm that flex our fingers. So this tract here primarily deals with muscles that flex body parts. Now, we have an area here called the dorsal spinal cerebellar tract. Now, this is a tract, I'm going to color another one in here too. Okay. The dorsal spinal cerebellar tract, that carries information from essentially muscles and ligaments, etc., for proprioception or position sense, different things like that, from, let me back up, not really position sense, but other things such as proprioception, no, here. This tract right here is called the dorsal spinal cerebellar tract, and it generally, very generally, carries messages from our lower limbs up into our brain. This is the anterior spinal cerebellar tract that does much of the same thing. It can have some certain aspects of information from our upper extremities or our arms as well. Those are some examples. And it just takes up a little bit of this space here. Those are some examples of different types of tracts. Now I'm going to color in one more area here. Well, we'll put it down in here. Okay? There's another tract called our vestibulospinal tract, and that tract carries nerve signals primarily from our inner ear, sections of our inner ear, down to our spinal musculature and also extensor muscles of our body, quadriceps, triceps. Vestibulospinal tract has a great deal to do with keeping our spinal muscles more activated so that it keeps us more erect. So let me give you an example. Let's say some of the nerve cells or nerve fibers, we'll say, in the right inner ear are not being stimulated appropriately, which therefore does not send nerve signals down this vestibulospinal tract appropriately to one side of our spinal muscles. And let's say the other side is working just fine. Let's say the bad side is not sending enough spinal or nerve signals down this vestibulospinal tract to our spinal muscles. We're going to have some weakness on that side of our spine. Not because we're not a big exerciser or doing some silly back extension exercises at the gym. That's for another show. But possibly because there is not enough nerve activation from the inside of our inner ear, which is not sending enough nerve signals down that tract to parts of our spinal muscles, creating a muscular imbalance. So, there are different tracts. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different tracts. There's a pain tract. There's a tract that sends nerve signals from our inner ear to our body. There's different tracts here that send nerve signals from our body up to our brain. This is a tract here that sends nerve signals from our brain to our body. There's another one from our brain to our body. So there's different sections within here that send different types of information.